I'm generally not one for indie games or even 8-bit games, but when everyone and their brothers started jumping on the Shovel Knight bandwagon last summer, I had to hitch a ride on the shovel train. Do I love it as much as everyone else? Not quite, but I do love me some Shovel Knight. It's just so charming and it all happens so quickly. By the end of it, you love all of the Order of No Quarter even if you don't know why. Part of it is their design and the thematics. Yacht Club studied the Mega Man book far better than most, and nowhere is it more obvious in the way that the idea of knightdom is applied to all your basic boss food groups. The water boss is a scuba diver, the ice boss is a Viking, the poison knight is a witch doctor, and the tech knight is a welder. They're all associated with some classical typical element or another, but it's more like that element was put into a can and spray painted onto a classic suit of armor, and suits of armor are inherently cool. In my travels, however, one knight stood out more to me than most, and they weren't of the archetype I'd expect either. That knight was Shield Knight. It was weird. I finished the game and Shield Knight was the one I came out of it with. I'm going to end up spoiling the end of Shovel Knight eventually, so here's fair warning before I go looking into what makes the plot of Shovel Knight so special. The answer is really actually pretty simple and not very spoilery at all. It's the catcher sections. Or the saver sections, or whatever they're called, because I can never remember. So that's a disclaimer before I go saying that 20 million times over the course of the rest of the video. Which you might have already guessed, since that's in the title. The explanation is simple. Sure, we've got a pretty typical damsel in distress style plot, nothing to see here. Your goal is simple and clear. Defeat the Order of No Quarter and the Enchantress, and hopefully rescue Shield Knight. That last one isn't made overly clear at first, since Shield Knight is referenced, but not exactly shown to be the main idea, until you beat the first level. Then, all of a sudden, the game puts you into this white plane with nothing but you, really. Shield Knight's falling and you've got to catch her. Why? Why should I catch her? Well, from a gameplay standpoint, it's because that's all there is to do. In this first catch her segment, there's nothing else. It's just you and Shield Knight, and you're playing the game. When you play a game, you want to win. And to win, you have to catch Shield Knight. But at the same time, it's actually you doing it. It's not just some cutscene. So it means something. That's a pretty simple bit of design that everyone knows by now. Gameplay is king when you're trying to immerse a player. By playing on your desire to win in a game, the game is making you care about Shield Knight. So you've done it once, it wasn't so hard, and really it was just kind of a random thing. Whatever. But the next time it happens, enemies assault you and try to keep you from getting a lock on where Shield Knight is going to fall. It's harder, it's more exciting, and it's more like a normal gameplay experience this time. But even this is unique. The whole time you're kind of stressed out, because here's all these enemies and Shield Knight is falling, you don't have to catch her to win, but you're not worrying about the typical things you worry about in a video game as much. You're not so much worried about dying in a stage like this or falling into a pit like usual. You're worried about the space you're in. You're worried about how the enemies are moving you, which is atypical. Normally you're just worried about them killing you, but that's not the goal here. The goal is to catch Shield Knight. See, these portions are clever because they manage to use the typical gameplay in a new way. It's interesting and it's odd, and you still want to do well. And doing well means catching Shield Knight. It's all very memorable. The segments are also all very atmospheric. The white background, the unique sprite of Shovel Knight reaching up into the air, not to mention the music, hit you pretty hard. Nowhere else in the game is there slow, quiet music like this, and nowhere else does Shovel Knight's helmet look so melancholy. These segments are potent in a lot of ways and really portray, with somewhat subtle cues, how much Shovel Knight cares for and misses his friend. But this has all been dreams thus far. By the way, this is where spoilers come in. You've done a few of these dream sequences by the time you reach the game's final level, and they're all great reminders of Shovel Knight's motivation and determination for doing what he's doing. But interesting though they are, they're just dream sequences story-wise, until you land the final blow on the Enchantress and catch her! Of course they'd make you catch her. Not only is it a throwback to all those interesting and memorable gameplay segments from before, it shows how much the game has manipulated you into caring about Shield Knight. Once more, it's just you and her. No enemies, no bosses. Nothing to do but catch Shield Knight. For real this time. The first time you play the game, you might not really be expecting it, so it makes so much sense. There's a real payoff here because those segments weren't typical and didn't seem to add anything to the game, but were all really memorable, so it's not like you don't know what's going on when it actually happens in the story. It just makes sense. And then you learn why you should save Shield Knight the character and not just Shield Knight the end flag. She's a total badass and you can't beat the Enchantress soul without her help. It's not really a new idea by any means. It feels really good when Zelda joins in the final battle in Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. In those games, Zelda was someone you rescued, yeah, but she actually did something alongside you during gameplay, which of course makes everything better. It's not hard to see why Zelda is, at very least, seen as stronger than Peach. It's easier to like a character that helps you out like that, but Shield Knight even feels even cooler for some reason, even though she largely serves the same purpose in the fight. Though it must be said that the way Shield Knight and Shovel Knight work together and complement each other's abilities so well was pretty awesome. I think the catch her segments that make Shield Knight a lot more compelling than most. She's in the gameplay, and the game is constantly reminding you of her in these short bursts. Yeah, you're saving her and not fighting alongside her, but it builds up to that. These segments aren't intrusive either. They're short, fun, and there's really no consequence if you lose. They're not some sudden gameplay shift that takes you into a required, frustrating, broken minigame that you need to do in order to progress. It's all the controls of the game proper, just used in a pursuit of a much different goal, one that isn't really pursued in video games that often. And it's awesome. Shovel Knight is awesome. It's not too hard and not janky like some 8-bit games tend to be. It deserves a lot of the praise it gets, for sure, as so much detail and thought went into every aspect of this game. Shield Knight's story, by the way, is in no way hindered by the beautiful Requiem for Shield Knight music and the other parts of the game's soundtrack. But I'm sure this isn't the last time I'll talk about this game. There's plenty to say about Shovel Knight another day.